You can use the Procurement and Sourcing Parameters form to set up purchasing parameters. You can perform several tasks, including define settings that apply to all purchasing transactions, enter default information that will be used if the information has not been specified at a lower level, and select number sequences for purchasing. Let's take a look at the parameters in AX. The parameters are found in the Procurement and Sourcing module underneath Setup and then Procurement and Sourcing Parameters. There are many different tabs. I'm not going to discuss every one. I'm going to point out the key ones that apply to purchase orders. On the General tab, you'll notice some default values. The first field here is the purchase type. You'll notice here are the purchase order types that we just discussed. By selecting purchase order here, it means that all new purchase orders by default will be of the type purchase order. You can also select a return action default, which for a return order means that it will default to the value of 10, which means defective. You can also select a default purchase pool. Purchase order pools are used to categorize and group like purchase orders. If a value is not selected, the user can manually select it each time they are creating a new purchase order. The Setup group contains several checkboxes that control how the purchase order will be created. The first one allows us to select whether or not the user should be prompted when selecting a vendor and an invoice account. The next one indicates whether or not the user should be prompted with quantity fields when posting a particular document. The third one is used to determine whether or not the fact boxes on the purchase orders for totals should be automatically updated when posting a confirmation, for example. The next checkbox indicates whether or not you want to use the vendor's purchase orders, prices, and amounts. There are several settings here that control how change management works, which we'll discuss later on in this module, and an intercompany purchase order parameter to determine whether or not purchase agreements should be searched for when you're creating an intercompany purchase order from an original sales order. Next, we'll take a look at the Updates tab. The Updates tab has several settings that control whether or not you want to accept over and under delivery and what the safety level of invoiced orders is. When this parameter is set to something other than none, a warning or an error message is received when a user attempts to modify a purchase order that has already been invoiced. You can also tell the system whether or not to check for duplicate packing slip numbers when posting a product receipt. If Reject Duplicate is selected, an error message will be received if 2 product receipts are processed for the same vendor with the same number. Other options include rejecting duplicates within the same fiscal year, accepting duplicates, or just warning in case of a duplicate. Next, we'll take a look at the Number Sequences tab. Number sequences are used to control the numbers that will be used when you create a new purchase order. For example, if you wanted your purchase orders to be numbered with a PO followed by 6 digits, you can set up a number sequence that defines that information and select it here. There are many number sequences that are used for various documents and records throughout the purchasing process. The last settings I want to discuss are on the Prices tab. The Prices tab includes several settings that control how you want prices and discounts to be defaulted onto your purchase order. There's an option here for discounts. You can select which methodology should be used when there's more than one discount. You can select whether or not you want the system to search for charges such as freight or handling automatically at the header level or at the line level of a purchase order. You can also select how you want dates to be calculated, if you want them to be based off of today or the delivery date. You can also enable price details, which I'll go ahead and do now, and I'll demonstrate for you later on what the price details you will display on the purchase order lines. If you've configured total discounts using trade agreements, you can also specify whether or not discounts will be calculated automatically when you post documents. On the lower portion of the screen, you can specify which types of data sources will allow trade agreements to be evaluated and overwritten. Now that we've reviewed the parameters, let's create some purchase orders.